you need to know which are the 3 things that you need to be on and really be on for and perform, and which are the other things that you're going to show up, you're going to do your best, you're going to execute, but you're not going to get too emotionally involved like this, which could then prevent you from fully showing up at capacity for those other things. When is it time to ask for help? Whenever you know that you could go further faster with someone else's support. Like, it doesn't need to be a breaking point moment. I think a lot of people get help when it's a breaking point moment, and like, that's fine to finally decide in the 9th hour. But what's even better than that is when you proactively make an empowered decision to be like, you know what? I could go further faster if I got someone that's ahead of me in this area.
They think like because you can't do it by yourself and because you need help, that means you're not like
well, you know who thinks that? I'm just going to be a little brash for a second. Losers think that, Sophia, because high performers are the people that are like, nah, I'm going to have a little advantage here, right? I'm going to get a little help. Sorry, I hate to be like a little harsh.
Get ready for the next iteration of you on your path to becoming wealthy. On this show, you'll get the insider's view on wealth creation, the class none of us got taught in school, with my co-host, daughter, and beginning investor, Sophia Bosch. And now, let's get started. Welcome to the Becoming Wealthy podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Bosch, my co-host,
Sophia Bosch.
We are both here very excited to have as our guest I would say a mentor, personal friend. I think the most brilliant business strategist right now out there that any 7 or 8-figure business CEO, could hire and really look up to. And the person that we have today is the CEO and founder of Kelly Roach Coaching. She is Kelly Roach. Kelly Roach Coaching is an 8-figure company. She is part of the Inc. 500. She's done it now, I think, 2 or 3 years in a row. She is a brilliant business strategist, a best-selling author, a host of a podcast, mom. I mean, a leader in the entire sense of the word, in terms of self-leadership and leading others, not just in her team, but other CEOs. She has really transformed, our business, and she's done it with simplicity, with elegance, by really leveraging the most powerful online marketing strategies out there and timeless business principles. So with that, Kelly, welcome to the show. We are so honored to have you here with us today.
I am so happy to be here. And it's just amazing to have the two of you hosting this show together. I think it is just legendary. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you very much for your time. So, Sophia, you hear a lot of Kelly Roach here, Kelly Roach there. Yeah. Kelly said this, Kelly said that. Kelly said we should do this,
I hear also across the house, Waco, you need to go listen to Kelly.
Exactly. I call Jack by a nickname in Spanish, amongst family. We call him Huaco or Joaquin. And so I'm like, I see any live or anything that you put out there, and a new podcast or anything, I'm like, Joaquin, go listen to Kelly now. So that's what Sophia's referring to. So tapping into that wealth of knowledge, that you have, Kelly, when it comes to being a true visionary leader, when it comes to self-leadership and leading others, what do you think has been your biggest challenge, my friend, over the last, I would say, I don't know, maybe 4 to 5 years?
Oh, gosh.
It's entertaining being an entrepreneur, and so that will come with a lot of self-leadership and also the ability to lead others through very difficult times.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, number one, the bigger game you want to play, the higher the stakes and the bigger the failures that you're going to need to endure in order to keep climbing, keep growing, keep learning, And, I think you mentioned self-leadership multiple times already today. And I feel like it's the most important thing of our time, of this era in time. The most important thing is self-leadership. And I tie that directly to emotional capacity. You said, what's the most challenging thing? When you're the CEO of a large company and you are responsible for hundreds, sometimes thousands of clients, and a large team, and you're the breadwinner in your family, and you're going through all of the insanity that we've all experienced in the last couple of years, and you're leading others through it, you have to develop the emotional capacity to be able to keep the stress and complexity at the top of the organization, keep yourself together, lead yourself, right? And keep your emotions in check so that what you are reflecting and what you are bringing to the people that you are here to lead, your market, your team, and your clients, they're reacting, duplicating, and responding to your energy. And so I think it's learning how to manage bigger and bigger challenges and contain your emotions and then be able to translate that stress into an execution plan that people can win with, right? And I think that's one of the most important things, like for all leaders or anyone that anticipates wanting to build a company or lead a company or, have a really high performance role in any capacity. It's understanding that no matter how successful you become, anytime you want to go to the next level of success, whether it's wealth building, whether it's building a company, whether it's leading in your community, whatever it is, it's going to the next level of success doesn't mean it gets easier. A lot of people think that when you start making more money or when you have the next level of success, that it gets easier. And I always say, that's not the right reason to pursue the next level of success. It's only if what you're doing means so much to you and you get joy and fulfillment in the actual experience of going through that. Yes, the outcome is like a cherry on top, but there's so much you're going to endure on the way to that. And I think being cognizant of that is really important.
Yeah. So Sophia, do you consider yourself a high performer?
I'd say so.
Can you tell Mrs. Roach a little bit about the things that you're doing and perhaps some of the challenges with the number of things that you're doing? And we'll see. Maybe she has some, an amazing nugget of wisdom and advice. I'm pretty sure she will. But do you want to share with her?
Yeah. So I might have said yes to too many things. So
I got you, girl. I've been there.
Yeah.
So she has, instead of 5 courses, she has 7 courses this year.
Well,
because she felt underwhelmed last year. So she's like, no, I need more challenge. She started a land biz. We started this podcast. She said yes to becoming part of a leadership group or team to raise $150,000 for, leukemia and lymphoma and blood cancers. And that's something, especially on, Jack's side of the family, that, it's meaningful, to us because, he's lost people that he loves to this. And so Sophia, goes and says yes to a lot of things.
And with my regular extracurriculars as my sport, piano, things like that. And then on top of that, all the homework that comes with the 7 courses, things like that. So I have had so much work in so little time.
Yes. And she just talked about emotional capacity. Do you want to ask something along the lines of that as far as I
don't know how to put that.
How to build more of that, Kelly, at this point for her?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me share a couple things that I think may be helpful for you, Sophia, that I think you can apply in this situation. So I'm going to compare you to a company for a second. Okay. And so when a company goes through hyper growth, it's a long build up period. And then it's like an explosion of growth and profit. And then there's a leveling out period. And then there's a pruning period. And then you reset and then you reinvest again to get ready for that next big explosive growth. So you had all this personal growth. Last year, you were like a little underwhelmed. You're like, it's not quite as challenging as I think it needs to be. You have like this runway and this momentum building. And then you signed up to do like 8 additional things, right? So you had this explosive period of growth, right? Where you're like, right? And now you're at the top and you've had that explosive period of growth and you're doing all of these things. And now is when you have to start discerning. This is where discernment comes in, right? Both emotional capacity and energy management. You have to discern where you're going to prune, right? So this is this amazing period for you, Sophia, where you have your hands in 100 different things. And what you're going to have to do throughout this period is you have to feel into the different things that you're doing. And you're going to have a season where you're doing 10 different things. And in that season, your only job, Sophia, is to show up and be the best that you can possibly be in the moment at each thing that you're doing, and also to go through the process of discernment. And that is, where do you want to focus and channel your energy as you move into the future? Because probably of the, let's say, 10 different things you're doing right now, probably 3 of them you're going to end up really caring about and really wanting to do long term. Some of them are going to be for a season, some are going to be for a reason, and some are going to be long term investments for you, right? And so you're going to have a really busy period. And what I would think about is you have a sprint through this really busy period. And your job during that really busy period is to show up and to experience each of these things and ultimately decide, do they make the cut or not? Which of these things are going to come with you long term? Which one's for a season? Which one's for a reason? And which one is going to stay with you long term? And to find the enjoyment in each one of them. And what I would say to couple with that is energy management. Right? So like the best way I can describe that is, let's say that I had a part-time job after school, and I also had a sports team that I was a part of, and I also had a new business that I started, and I was also trying to make the honor roll, which it sounds like you are kind of in all of those buckets in some way, shape, or form, right? So what you have to decide is like, what ball can you not drop? And so, you know, if your sports team has the potential, I'm just making this up, but if your sports team has the potential to go to nationals and you play a key role on the team, that's a ball you don't want to drop, right? You want to make sure that you manage your energy to show up 150% for that. Right? Yeah. But if you're in your part-time job after school and you know what it takes to do really well in that job and fulfill your responsibilities, and there's like a lot of like drama going on, you know, within the job, and people are having side conversations, and there's all these other things that are going on besides the responsibilities of the job, that's where from an energy management standpoint, you're going to compartmentalize and you're going to say, I'm going to show up. I'm going to do a great job at my job. I'm going to manage my energy. I'm not going to get involved in any of these extra things beyond just me coming in and delivering, get in, get out, you know, do my thing, right? And so it's just this constant game. And now I have a portfolio of 6 companies now, right? So I have different teams in each of these companies. Every day there's hundreds of problems that come up, and I have to decide, how much energy does this problem get from me? Right? And I think a big mistake that people make is they give equal energy to everything. Yeah. So they react and respond to everything that's coming at them all the time. And then they're always burnt out and exhausted because everything's getting equal energy. So I think, Sophia, for you, it's number one, as you're going through this process of you're in all of these different things right now, which is amazing. You're like at the age to do it. Like, it's so good for you.
She gets to, it's like a privilege. I tell her she gets to have all this opportunity and options, you know?
It's such a privilege, and it's the right time to do it. And your only job right now is to enjoy it and to discern. And that's it, right? And besides that, it's energy management. So as you're going through this very busy period where you have your hands in 100 different buckets, you have to be very cognizant of how much energy you're giving to each of these things. And you have to know when you need to preserve your energy. Even though you have 8 things stacked in the day, you need to know which are the 3 things that you need to be on and really be on for and perform, and which are the other things that you're going to show up, you're going to do your best, you're going to execute, but you're not going to get too emotionally involved like this, which could then prevent you from fully showing up at capacity for those other things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. at least I'm hearing you say, and I'm in the comparison with the business, but still, I mean, what do you think so far, Sophia, based on that? Can you already, like, from the top of your head, like, say, okay,
I think I have already, like, not stopped putting some, like, as much effort into, like, energy into some things. Like, I already know, just because I did prioritize a couple of things.
Yeah. Yeah. This energy management, I think it's so important for people to, and for any person, really, teenager, regardless of age, to make a distinction in terms of, like, okay, how much am I gonna give to? I'm gonna show up and give my best, but will I be emotionally invested in it, or not, for the long term?
Exactly. Exactly. And then I think it's important also to anticipate and plan for and be strategic about a pruning period. And this is where I think a lot of people, especially in the world of business, get like so overwhelmed and so like emotionally torn apart, is like, after you go through a big period of growth, which is what you're going through right now. I mean, heck, you just started your own business, right? Like, you are growing. You are like a plant that is like blossoming right now in these huge ways, which is unbelievable. But then planning and preparing for a pruning period so that going into next year, for example, you have your 3 core things that you're going to really devote yourself to, and you're going to get ready for an explosion up again. But instead, this time of it being really wide, this time it's going to be really deep, because you went through a discernment period of identifying the things that you want to go deep in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I love that. Every CEO needs that, because, God, you know how easily it can. I mean, it's in the entrepreneurial nature that if you see an opportunity, you want to seize that opportunity, but then another one and another one, and you can fall into entrepreneurial ADD, and 100%. Shiny object syndrome.
I literally wrote, like, in the front of my planner this year, because I always write my commitments to myself in the front of my planner in like a page you can't rip out so that I see it all year long. And I wrote, do not commit to anything new. Put nothing new on your plate. And that was one of my commitments coming into the year, because for the last 3 years, I started all these new companies. I've been getting my hands in all these different things. And I knew I just need to focus. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we had question 2, which was, how can you clarify in a world with so much distraction? How can you clarify different opportunities? And I think you've answered, that question for sure. Kelly, I heard you by chance today. I went into Facebook and Kelly Roach is live, and I'm like, ooh, one of my favorite people is on live. Let me go ahead and click join. And I joined, and you are talking about being a creator versus being a consumer. In the time that we live in, I mean, this age group is bombarded by distraction, and you're nodding. What do you?
The amount of ads that come up, like, on my Instagram.
Ads, but the fact that you are on Instagram. Right?
Yeah.
And everywhere else. And just all this distraction. And you were talking a lot of, which we laughed the other day. Because I was telling Sophia, we were talking about toxicity and so on and so forth. But we were talking it from a health standpoint and eliminating toxins and so on. But
they're like, you're toxic, Sophia. I'm like, thanks.
But you guys are so cute.
But how you were, applying that, that concept was to that toxicity of it not just being the junk foods that we eat, which was what we were talking about, at home with Sophia, but also the junk that we put into our mind. Can you tell us a little bit about the distinction between being a creator and being a consumer, and the importance in that distinction? Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go God for one quick second, not for too long, but just give me a God moment here for 1 second. So here's the thing, and you already see this, Sophia, and obviously in your mom and in your parents, you have such unbelievable role models. But so, God knew us before we were born in the womb. It's like a 1 in a billion plus. You can't even read the numbers on the screen chance that we were here, right? And there's a plan for each of us. And part of that plan was that we were given a set of unique gifts, right? And we were given those gifts by God. That was God's gift to us, right? He gave us those gifts. And our gift back to God is how we use those gifts, right? That's a quote that I love so much. And when you think about it in your life, right, culture is always telling us to look outside of ourselves, consume media, television, social media, right? From every angle, it's all about external interactions with the world, right? Yeah. Which most people then spend the majority of their life reacting and responding to. When you're reacting and responding, you're consuming, right? Number one. And number two, you're not in a creative state where you can intellectually capitalize on the gifts that you are given. You're not able to hear your intuition. You're not able to connect in a deeper way thoughtfully with why am I here and what am I being called to do in my life and where am I being led and what are the signs around me that are carrying me forward to where I'm meant to go, right? And so, when you think about the amount of distractions, I was talking earlier, we cut cable this year. Like I'm super, I don't even listen to watch videos or watch people's content. Like I literally read books and I read a book a week. And I do that because I can consume timeless principles that can be applied to every area of my life versus tactical things that are in the moment regurgitation of something that's trending or fadding or, whatever the case. So not that I think it's bad when you find your mentors, you find the people that you want to learn from and all of that, being super disciplined around that. But getting in a creative state is only possible when you silence the distractions. It's only possible when you can actually be in a state of critical thinking and thoughtfulness and quiet and intuition. And I really, really believe that our intuition is a gift that was given to us to lead us and to help us to understand where and how to go next in our lives and also how to put our gifts to use. So my suggestion is really above all else to go beyond you're looking at toxicity in what you eat and what you put in your body, and that's going to affect your longevity and your health and your quality of life, period. And what you put in your psyche is also going to affect your health, your longevity, your quality of life, but it goes even beyond that because it's going to affect your body of work, who you are in the world, how you show up, what you share, the way that you share what you share, right? The reason I stopped consuming online about 5 years ago was because I feel my gifts that were given for God are to use my intellect to serve people. And so I didn't want the things that I was saying online to be influenced by something I was consuming, but instead I wanted them to be coming from intuition and experience and, what God was putting on my heart. And so, Sophia, what I would say is, you have to rage against the machine a little bit and you'll get a huge payback for that in your life. But you really, really have to learn early. And you have great examples, with your parents and role models and so many people that you're meeting on the show, but rage against the machine as much as you possibly can. And just be super cognizant of, the passive things that you're consuming without even realizing. And it's like what you just said, you're on Instagram and you're getting the ads. Like, how much do you really need to be on Instagram at your age? Yeah. So it's just like those little things that are going to give you such an advantage in life, in building the life that you want and being so centered in being in that co-creation seat with God, where He gave you the gift and the talent and you're fully stepping up to the plate to use it. But it's really hard to do that if you're constantly in consumption and reaction mode versus being the co-creator. Right. And so just kind of taking that and tucking it away.
I love that. Now, Sophia, just from the top of your head, as she was speaking, just intuitively, can you tell a little bit of, or can
Actually, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So if you cut out all like social media or whatever, and I know that you do most of your marketing on social media, how would you know, like, how people react if you aren't on social media? Like, I mean, obviously you have like a marketing team, they probably
Yeah.
do that with
Yeah.
you, but
Yeah.
like if you're not on that, how will you know what people like
Resonate with.
Yeah.
So have you heard the term zeitgeist? You know what zeitgeist is, right? So it's being like it's being in tune with what's already going on in the conversation in the world of the people that you want to interact with or in the culture, right? It's like I recorded a whole podcast episode on it. You can listen to it. But one of the most important things as a creator is you want original ideas. You want original content. You want to be disruptive and innovative in what you're sharing. And what most people do is they copy and paste an idea that they heard from another creator and they do an iteration of that. And then there's an iteration of that and an iteration of that. And it's more and more and more watered down. And what I have focused on doing basically my entire career in business that I think has been pretty successful so far. So it's going pretty well so far. Is I focus on being in the zeitgeist of my people, right? Okay. And what I mean by that is I have my ear to the ground with the people that I'm actually here to serve. It's all about being in the operating reality of my clients, my market, all of those things. So I have always, even since the beginning of my business, the first thing that I had my team focus on was literally every time I got a new follower on social media, they would say, hey, why'd you come follow Kelly's account? What do you want to learn? What do you want to hear? What do you want to know more about? And so since the very beginning, I've always had kind of that ability to be in tune with what people are truly struggling with or seeking or searching for just by asking. Right? Yeah. Instead of, so I'm getting that intel from my people that are coming to me that are wanting to learn and to grow and, whatever, versus me getting that intel from a watered down version of a piece of content that came from someone who copied a piece of content from someone else. Right? So instead of getting it from my competitors and peers, I'm having my team solicit that information from the people in my audience. Does that make sense? And then obviously I'm a coach, right? So I'm on Zoom and I'm interacting with my clients all day, every day, right? So I have a lot
of the kinds of questions that people are asking you.
Absolutely. Exactly. So I know what's going on up here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Kelly, how do you cultivate creativity? So one part is clear, is basically pruning and eliminating some distractions. But how do you cultivate creativity? And then, Sophia, I want to hear how you cultivate creativity as well. And there's, left brain creativity and right brain creativity, and you seem very gifted on both sides. So just think about it because I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, I love
How do you cultivate creativity, Kelly?
Yeah, just making space for it is the biggest thing, and that's the hardest thing I find. Right, like. I cultivate creativity by being quiet and not working. Right? Like I find that my creativity comes from when I'm not sitting at the computer saying, I am going to be creative right now. Right? Yeah. It's like, it comes from white space, right? It comes from white space.
I love that. You remember Leslie Kuster talking about emptiness? It sounds like white space and it sounds like a blank canvas.
How do you cultivate creativity, Sophia?
I love painting. That's
beautiful. That's amazing.
Yeah. So whether that you said blank canvas, which is true, but like right now in my painting class, like it's kind of where our assignment is to copy, not like copy, but like
emulate certain techniques from another artist.
No, emulate basically the painting.
Okay.
Like just try and like transfer it. But like she gives you the option. She's like, you don't have to do it exactly. So that's where your creativity comes. Like,
yeah.
Like you basically switch it. You basically have that.
But you have your moments.
Base.
Yeah. You have your moments at home when it's not a school related project where you can basically
do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want. And in those do whatever I want moments, and basically space, sometimes you get brilliant ideas, how sometimes I usually say, Mom is taking a visionary bath. Do not disturb. The future of the company depends on it.
I love that. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Because it's very similar. And for you, it's, through painting. For me, it's like, okay, a bath and, and it could be a walk. It could be, I don't know, spending time in nature and so on and so forth.
Also, like at night, like if I put my phone away, whatever, I kind of just like lay there. Like not being able to fall asleep. And then my mind starts like
thinking about actually.
So that's like the white
space.
But you see, the second that you eliminate the distractions and you're not responding and reacting, right? So the moment that you're not responding and reacting, you can shift into creating.
Plus it's like dark in my room. Like I can't see anything. So there is no distraction.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Kelly, how do you cultivate that self-control and that self-discipline? Because this is not easy, And so, and you have a background. You're not just a business athlete, but you are first and foremost at some point in your life an athlete that brought all those attributes, from being an athlete and a top performer there into the business world. And when you were Sophia's age and she used to be a dancer, Sophia. She also was an NFL, is it cheerleader for, I can't even remember, Philadelphia what?
Eagles.
I'm not a big sports person, Kelly, but and so how did you cultivate that self-discipline and and self-control?
That's a great question. I have had a quote that I've lived by basically since I can remember, which is be the best that you can be in everything that you do. And I think that has really been like the simple mantra of my life. And I think that's coming back to what we were talking about earlier of discernment, right? When I'm with Madison, I'm trying to be the best mom I can possibly be in every moment that I'm with her. When I'm having an us day with Billy, I'm trying to be the best wife I can possibly be in that moment with him. When I'm running my company, I want to challenge myself to be the best CEO I can possibly be. And I think that that's why it's so important to be so discerning about the things that you choose to be a part of your life, so that when you make that decision, it's with a lot of intent. It's with a lot of intent. And, you're at a point that when you decide that you're going to do that, it's not something that you want to outsource. And, what I always say to people is, understanding the implication of the commitments that you make. Right? Because when you think through the implications of the commitments that you make and you're like, is this something I really want to do long term? Is this something that I really see myself doing? Is this sustainable? Right? It's why I always tell people like, the people that chase the quick cash as entrepreneurs or business owners, they end up usually really unhappy and they end up not being able to sustain it long term, right? Whereas the people that have a really big vision for what they want to do in business and in life, and all those things are interconnected and there's really high intent around it, it's easy to be disciplined because there was so much discernment and intent in what you signed up for. Right? Which is why, Sophia, you're just in this like amazing place in life right now where your job is just to experience it. Like you just need to have fun. You need to experience all these different things. You need to go through this period, like I said earlier, of like dipping your toe in all these different places and enjoying the process of getting to decide. The power of choice is like the most important thing in life. And you're in this great moment of power of choice. So I think that when you have a lot of intent around your decisions, the discipline is a natural byproduct, because if you're thinking with the end in mind about the life that you want to live, how you want to feel day to day, what you want your daily existence to be, and the decisions that you're making tie directly to that, it's pretty clear how you need to show up in the moment in order to get the outcome that you're after. And I think a lot of people don't have that level of intent in their lives. And therefore, it's really hard to be disciplined because there isn't a lot of thought. There isn't a lot of intent. They're not conscious creators of their own day-to-day existence, which we all have the blessing of being in that seat of creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Kelly, so you are a coach to coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Your team is looking up to you. Your daughter's looking up to you. Your family's looking up to you. Like I know the weight that comes with that, Yeah. I understand it for sure. And part of, I think, building confidence is sometimes going through incredible challenges together with these people that absolutely love you and that believe in what you're doing and your calling.
Yeah.
And getting through and being on the other end. Mm-hmm. However, we all need help.
Yeah.
We all need help. And at what point have you had situations where you've had to ask for help, not just to the main one upstairs, but to the people that might, that where you're getting the help from the one upstairs through other people,
Yeah.
Because for us as coaches, like, okay, everyone comes to us, but who do we go to? And at what point can we discern when it's time for us to ask for help? Because
absolutely.
And I know that, she is a person that is very self-sufficient, incredibly independent, like fiercely independent, and is also a top performer. But at some point, I'm like, Sophia, do you need help in anything? And so when do you discern that it's time for you to get help, Kelly?
Yeah. I think asking for help is a sign of strength because it demonstrates a level of maturity that you can remove your ego and understand the importance of the task at hand, right? And when you know that you can't get there on your own. And I'll be honest, when you're a leader that's carrying everything all the time, it feels really good to have someone else pour into you. I signed up recently. I got a personal trainer because I was like, I need help. I had been exercising. I was like, you know what? I'm not really challenging myself physically. I really wanted to get into lifting weights and like taking better care of my body and all of that. And I was like, you know what? I need help. Like, it's just not happening. And I'm a couple weeks into it and it feels so good. It feels so good to show up and have someone else pour into you and to not be the leader for that 1 hour. I'm like, this is amazing, right? And now I'm like, where else can I get help? Who else am I going to bring in, right? But whether it's coaches or whether it's mentorship, whether it's spiritual guidance, whether it's help with your physical health, your mental health, I think I've had help in all different areas over the years, and I pick and choose, at different times to work with different people to get help in different ways. And I think, when is it time to ask for help? Whenever you know that you could go further faster with someone else's support. Like, it doesn't need to be a breaking point moment. I think a lot of people get help when it's a breaking point moment. And like, that's fine to finally decide in the 9th hour. But what's even better than that is when you proactively make an empowered decision to be like, you know what? I could go further faster if I got someone that's ahead of me in this area. Right. Yeah. So that would be my feedback on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. What do you think, Sophia?
It's so true.
Does that relate to tutoring sometimes? She's like, oh, history. My teacher's driving me crazy. And this material is like, what is happening? Yeah. And I'm like, there's tutors out there, And
for sure.
Sometimes I have to remind her that we have them available. They're actually, a contact in her cell phone that she can reach out to. And
It's so funny because I feel like as high achievers, like, we just forget that sometimes that's like available to us. I had to get tutors in school and I was a super high achiever and like I had tutors and stuff. But like, I feel like, all the top performers in the world always have coaches, right? Yeah. Because it's impossible to see everything from inside the bottle. right?
Yeah.
I feel like also, like, at least there's like a stigma around like tutors, at least, like with my age group. Like, if you have a tutor, you're like, they think you're dumb, they think you're stupid, like, they think like because you can't do it by yourself and because you need help, that means you're not like
Well, you know
like
who thinks that?
smarter
I'm just going to be a little brash for a second. Losers. Losers
Yeah.
think that, Sophia, because high performers are the people that are like, nah, I'm going to have a little advantage here, right? I'm going to get a little help. Sorry. I hate to be like a little harsh, but like, I get it. I get that. But like,
no, I
that's
agree.
yeah.
I use a tutor and I
Yeah.
get higher scores on those tests than them. So it's like,
so that's it. So, you know, so, but that's just an early lesson. And it's such a good one, Sophia, of like being happy in life is about being able to run your own race and to be empowered in the decisions that you make that are right for you in your life with your vision and goals. And I say this all the time, but everybody's going to have an opinion about what you do all the time. And if you adjust your behavior and you adjust what you're doing in your life in accordance with someone else's opinion, you're probably not going to live the life that you want to live. Right. But if you are running your own race and you're like, that's cool, you guys can go struggle on your own. And I'm going to be just over here, like, you know, getting my goals. Right. It's okay. Like you just, so it's great that you're having that lesson so early, Sophia, because you're going to face that at every stage of life. Like at your age, it's about getting tutors. And then at the next stage, it might be about going to therapy. And at the next stage, it's about, you know, whatever. But it's good that you're learning that lesson early, you know?
Because I tell her, Sophia, this is to improve maybe from an 88 or from a 90 to a 97. How is an 88 or a 90 a dumb person?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And it's to improve maybe, you know, to get her over that hump from either an A minus to an A plus. I'm like, this is not a reflection on whether, you know, someone is dumb or not. But like you said, it's trying to be ahead faster and doing it with more economies of effort, you know, and so on and so forth. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I'm glad that you came out just like, okay, this is how it really is. Like mom would talk to a daughter, you know? So yeah, absolutely. Talking about your daughter. So Madison is right now 9 years old. She's 9 years old, and I am living a little bit your future here. But what are you doing right now with her to cultivate faith and to cultivate confidence? Because there is, I always think of faith sometimes as starting with having faith in yourself and that extending to faith in the goodness of others. And that eventually extending into faith of the unknown or unknown put next to it, you know, equals God. Because you never know what God has in store for you. So how are you teaching Madison right now to cultivate faith, and how do you cultivate it personally also?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, you know, setting and achieving goals. Right. So that's something like so early on, right? Like having faith in yourself, knowing that. I remember, you know, a couple summers ago, she wanted to get a back handspring on the trampoline and she came inside all upset one day and she said, Mom, I can't get it. And I said, how many times did you try? 5. I said, okay, go try 100 times and then you can come talk to me. And she wasn't even close to 100 times. And she came back and she was like, I got it. And I sat her down and I said, let's have a conversation about life. Right. And I said, you know, there is nothing in life that you get to just wave a magic wand and say, I want this thing or I want to do this thing. And then you're going to do it. But I think setting and achieving goals and failing a lot in between. And so I'm always looking for opportunities to like walk her through those examples. I think communication skills are everything. So like, I love the fact that you're sitting here. I'll talk about the faith part of it in a second, but let's just talk about this. I mean, Sophia, the fact that you're on this podcast with your mom is like, Like literally, it's amazing like what this is going to do for you in your life, this experience, the people you're going to meet, the relationships you're going to build, the confidence that you're going to create on camera. So like I just got back from an event for one of my companies and Madison spoke at the event. She had her first slot on the second day, 10 minutes. She had a 5-slide PowerPoint up there with the mic by herself. I stood in the back of the room intentionally. And so just challenging her. And it was funny because Billy and I had a little moment in the morning and he was like, I don't think she's ready. And I was like, I'm throwing her in the deep end. She's doing it.
But I was like, about?
What did you say?
What did she speak about?
She made her own slides and she chose her own topics. So she talked about the power of belief, believing in yourself. She talked about the importance of having your own opinion. She talked about the importance of getting in nature to get away from distractions. She wrote these slides herself and picked the topics herself. And then finally, she talked about why parents should consider letting their kids be a part of their business and the impact that it will have on their life. And basically was using herself as an example, you know, being at the event. So what you're doing right now, communication is everything, right? Because it doesn't matter ultimately like what you go to school for or like what your niche subject matter.
Connect with people in that.
That's all it is. That's all it is. So for me, with Madison, I'm just always looking for opportunities to challenge her, to have these conversations about delayed gratification, to really look for ways where I can point out to her the importance of practice and how many times it takes to get good at something. And most importantly, imperfect action, which is why I was like, she said she wanted to get up there and she was really nervous the morning of, and Billy was like teetering and he's like, should we like wait? And I'm like, nope. I'm like, she said she wants to do it. She's doing it. And I purposely stood in the back of the room. She's in front of like 55 business leaders and she's speaking. And I was like, she can do it. And she did great. And she smiled and the whole thing. Faith, like you said, Michelle, it does start with believing in yourself. Right. And then it's believing in something bigger than you. So for me, I am a person of faith. I bring her with me to church on Sundays. She goes to Sunday school. She has her kids' Bibles. We read Bible stories and then I have her write like her 3 sentences of like what she understood from the story and what she felt the lesson was. So I try to have her incorporated in that. We do prayers and gratitude meditations together every night before bed. So
I love the gratitude meditation.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's something my parents never did with me. And my parents
get going when rolling with that. I don't think that's something that I'm doing with Sophia either.
Yeah, my parents never did it with me. And when I look at my life, I think being a person of gratitude is probably at the very top of my list of why I'm a happy person, to be honest. Because I think 99% of life is knowing what you already have. And I'm a person that's always striving for, like, you know me, Michelle, I have big goals. I have big goals, right? So there's a lot that I don't have in my life today that I still would like to create. But I think why I'm such a happy person is gratitude. And so I was thinking to myself, what's a practice that I can do with Madison now that I feel will have the biggest impact on her happiness and quality of life over time? And I was like, you know what? It's developing a gratitude practice. Yeah.
We have a little bit of that. We talk about positive outlook so that we can train the mind to focus on the positive things that are happening. Because the good, then when you appreciate it, it appreciates, you know, but the gratitude is there's a little bit more heart in it. You know, it's got a different quality to it, a different flavor. Sure. So maybe we need to start doing some of that, Sophia, together. Yeah, absolutely. Sophia actually went to Episcopalian school. So when you talk about, I
got church twice a week.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? This is the thing. It's so interesting, right? Because I went to Catholic school my whole life up through high school. But when I look back on my life and when I look at the impact that being introduced to a belief in God and being in a school where morals and ethics were at the forefront of what I was doing, that fundamentally shaped the trajectory of my life. So Sophia, you may now at the age that you are, you might be like, that was really annoying and I don't really like that. And why do we have to do this all the time? But when you're an adult and when you look at running your empire, which you will be, and when you look at how you manage relationships and how you lead people, and you look at the relationships that you build and even the person that you choose to spend your life with, you're going to look back on that time at Episcopalian school and you're going to be like, damn, like that really, really impacted my life. And you can't see the way that
she already sees it.
I already see it because I went there for, in my opinion, one of like middle school is like the most formative, I think, time.
Yeah.
Because you're like, and
you're going from childhood to puberty. Yeah.
And then that school ended at 8th grade, so I had to switch to high school. So I went to a non-religiously affiliated school that bases itself in individualism rather than morals of like community and helping others, like something big,
service,
like,
basic
service. Like my prior school was service oriented. There was always a food drive going on, something. And like I think it started off as 2 times a week religion class, and then like theology, and then 2 times a week church. So there was that. And then I always remember also my religion teacher telling me like after we read like
a passage
or like a
story,
a story, I guess,
from the Bible.
She was like, don't take it that literally, figure out the lessons within it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And now for her, you know, it's like you said, it's going to affect and orient your entire life.
100%.
We were actually a few weeks back, as you know, we were doing college tours.
Yeah.
And it was apparent to you quickly. You were able to discern from the 5 colleges, and you were able to discern one that was an absolute no-go.
Yeah.
And then 2 that were yeses. Can you explain to Kelly why they were yeses?
Well, I think the one no was it was MIT personally.
But why was it a no?
It was a no because it felt like there was no community.
There's no community. There was no sense of service. And
there was no sense of service. There was no sense of like
thinking on something outside of yourself, you know?
Yeah.
That there was no higher calling, you know, as a group of people coming together for anything. Yeah. And then it
was yes for like, is like the Institute of Technology. So it's for like the advancements of technology, but it's like, it doesn't have like, anyways, I then toured, I think it was Boston College. Loved it. 90% of the students on their own like terms and basis do like extra, like outside of class, like community service, like whether that's like raking up the leaves because it was like
it's
the campus pretty, like it was all like community feeling.
So and then we visited another one. She's like, wow, I'm amazed, and I love the community of growth, and everyone is wanting to grow. And so it's important to recognize, you know, how sometimes even though you know, sometimes in school they make us study things, you know, very literal. I'm actually very happy that your teacher said no, try to pick up the lessons.
Well, she knew that having middle schoolers read the Bible and say like there were like with Noah's Ark, there were like 100 animals on that ship or whatever it is. Like you're not.
That's not exactly exciting. That's not what a middle schooler wants to be reading about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Middle schoolers are not exactly going to believe that. I feel like so.
Yeah. So she said,
but they will believe like the lessons that come out of it. And then she had us like also do quote of the day. So like she had a quote on the thing and give me what is your interpretation, an example of this in your real life.
Yeah, so, absolutely. So that there's a
like
practical application and reflection. Kelly, if anything, the last thing that I would like to ask, because that is something that you talk about discernment a lot today. The power of just reflection in general, across all areas of our lives. How do you do that? Do you do that, in the evenings, in the mornings? Do you have scheduled time? Do you, what do you do? This, reflection and just thinking about your thinking in general. So important.
Yeah, I exactly. I have time every morning before I start calls. I usually don't start calls now until like 11 o'clock. And that's very intentional so that I can meditate, pray, exercise, think before I dive into the insanity, right? And I mean, whatever works for you. I think it's whatever fits in your life and whatever works for you. But I think it is very easy to be a victim of culture versus the designer of your life. And I think that it's more important than ever to take a step back, not like once a quarter, not once a year, like literally like on a weekly, daily basis, and really think about what you're doing with your life and why, and choose. That's all I would say is just choose, like so that whatever you choose, it was a choice. I mean, so many people that like their life is just this cobbled, it's this cobbled Franken life, and then they're unhappy, and it's like it's like that because it wasn't a choice. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
And we all have the privilege of the power of choice and the power of creativity in our lives. And so I think it's just making space in your life to intentionally choose. And if you make the wrong choice, which sometimes you will, then you have time to think in your life and you say, I made the wrong choice and I'm going to course correct, right? Because some of the things that you pick, you think you're going to love them and you get down that path and you're like, this isn't for me. But if you have the time to think and you have the time to discern in your life and you're taking time to reflect, you're going to know that. And then you can course correct, you make a new decision, pivot,
To get and find basically the 20% that will produce the 80% of satisfaction, of fulfillment, of whatever it might be. Yeah. Kelly, thank you so much for your time here with us today. I mean, I could listen to you for hours and talk to you for hours for sure. And just thank you so much for pouring into Sophia today and into everyone that is listening here. For you listening, if you love today's show, where can they go and find out more about you, Kelly?
Well, thank you so much for having me here. And you're amazing, Michelle. I honor you and I have so much respect for you. And I just love being a part of your world. And Sophia, I am so excited to see where you go and what you do. I will be following every step of the way, girl. I know you're just going to crush whatever you choose for your life. And so I'm excited to get to be a part of watching that happen. And for anyone listening, the Kelly Roach Show, right? Yeah. So just check out the podcast if you want to connect and learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an avid listener. And guys, if you enjoyed today's show, make sure you leave us a 5-star review, share with an important woman in your life, whether that woman is a younger woman, like mine here, my Sophia, or like us, women in our 40s. And I mean, I'm 50 now. Anyways.